please tell us about our Homestead bridge that we just built, dear husband.
All right. Well, this is Jason. He's the owner, and he's in his Kubota excavator, and he's digging the first holes for the footing on the east side of the creek next to the road. That's what the hole is, what it looks like for the footer. So they did a good job. They didn't disturb the bank. They left all the vegetation on the bank, so there's no erosion into the creek.
That's nice.
And there he is still digging. Okay, this is he's lowering the first basket into the footer. So they put these wooden forms in. This is the concrete form, and then they prefab this welded cage. And this is rebar that's been welded. This is to reinforce the concrete. They pre-weld that, prefab it in their own shop, and then they haul it out here already pre-made to save time, as they do with these forms. These forms were already made, and they just lift them into the hole with the excavator. So
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they save a huge amount of time. I mean, this took them a week to weld all this stuff up and build this, right? But they did that in their own shop.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know they could do that.
And you can see on the other side there, he's setting the form on that side too, and they're getting it level. So they level it all off. This is what one of the forms looks like. So then they do weld this on site, this top part of the basket. They weld it onto the bottom part, and they build this form. So the smaller form they build on top of the larger form on site. It's just easier for them to do it that way. And that form is 13 feet wide and about 4.5 feet tall. So there's the form ready for concrete on that side of the creek. Here's a view from the road looking back. There's that same form, and here's the other form. Now he's leveling it off and getting it all ready.
Now hold on, but talk about your, I think that for people who are building their own homestead, this is important. Your little, like, you build this just like you just did this. Yeah.
And this is just a permit holder for now. It's on a 4x4 post, treated post. And I, same as the bridge company, I prefab this at home. I cut it all, drilled holes in it, lined it all up, ready to go, so that all I had to do was drop the post in the ground. The post already had a bevel cut on top for the little tin roof. And I assembled all this on site, but it was cut, pre-drilled, everything ready to go, screw holes lined up. So it only took me probably 10 minutes to put it up. It took me 5 minutes to dig a hole and 5 minutes to put it together.
It's great.
This is the other form, concrete form. So this one is a little bit different. They shaped it L-shaped just because of the length. So what they do, they're not precise in how they drop that bottom footer in. They drop that bottom footer and the form for the footer in a hole, but they don't measure it out precisely. Then what they do is they come back and they measure out more precisely the top part of the form, this part. And the reason that they do that is because those forms from end to end need to be exactly 30 feet, because that's the length of the span of the I-beams that they lay across. That's the length of the bridge, in other words. So there they are, both forms. These are level from one side to the other now. They use a laser level for that to make sure that the bridge is not sloped downhill on one side of the creek or the other. This is a distant view. This is the concrete pumper right here that's out there getting ready for he's getting situated so that the concrete truck can come and they can pump concrete in to those forms. This is concrete pumped in. So this bottom, they smooth off the top part of this footer because this is where your beams are going to sit. But all this bottom part, they don't bother with smoothing that off. It just remains rough concrete because it's all below grade anyway. It's all covered up with dirt. The only thing that sticks out is the top 8 to 12 inches of this footer. So this part on the top is where your I-beams sit. This is the hose for the concrete pump. So they actually pumped this from our other bridge. They parked on our other bridge, the concrete pumper, pulled the
red
in,
bridge, the red
bridge, pulled the concrete truck in off the road onto our driveway, but not onto our bridge, because our red bridge is not rated for the weight capacity of a concrete truck. So they didn't get it on the bridge. They got it close to it, pumper unit on the bridge, and pumped it from there over here.
Oh, interesting. Okay, got you.
This is the concrete pumping company. I captured this photo because I really like this guy that was doing this work, and they do concrete pumping, but they also do finish work of all kinds. So they'll do slabs, they'll do footers, they'll do stem walls, they'll do basement walls, all that stuff. I was like, hey, I like you. I may use you again for buildings that we're going to build on the property. So I got his number.
Nice.
Both of the forms are now filled with concrete, and these are ready to sit up and begin curing.
Okay.
Next, so they left it like this. Forms went in on Monday, concrete got pumped on Tuesday. This remained like this overnight in the forms, and they came back on Wednesday, and they had the beams already laid. When I got there in the morning, they already had the beams laid across from one footing to the other, and they were now welding. Here's a welder that's welding. So what they do is they take these 4 steel I-beams, huge beams. I think they're 27 inches tall. They're 30 feet long, and they lay them next to each other. The ones in the middle are spaced further apart than the ones on the end. The reason that they do that is because there's no weight in the center of the bridge. The weight is where the tires are on each side of the bridge, right? So there's 2 beams on each side of the bridge. And so this is them welding. What they do is they weld iron, angle iron in between each of those beams so that those beams don't shift once they're in use. Like, if a really heavy truck, a 60,000 pound concrete truck goes over these, that the beams don't move in any way. And now here they are spreading these treated posts down. So this is the planking that goes on top of the bridge. These are 4 inches by 6 inches, and they're 12 feet long. So the bridge is 12 feet wide, and they lay these flat side down. So they're 6 inches wide and they're 4 inches tall. These are not standard treated posts, but these are special DOT grade treated lumber. These are rated to last 80 years. So what they do is they just take the whole bundle. It's really neat. They take the whole bundle with the excavator, lay it up on top the 4 beams. They cut the straps, and then what he does is he uses the excavator to knock each one off the pile, and he lines them up. And then he's taking the excavator bucket and he's sliding this whole row of posts across the bridge.
With that dude standing on there?
Yeah, he's just standing on it like it's a sled. He's just watching to make sure that none of them get like fall off the side or something like that, you know.
Okay.
And so now they've got them all across, and now what they're doing is they're starting to fasten these. So what they do with this is they clamp the first one down so that it doesn't move, and then they drill. They use these. I think they're between 10 and 12. I think they're 10. I think they're between 8 and 10 inches. I think they're 10-inch screws. So they're 10-inch structural screws, and they screw each one all the way through 6 inches of one post and into the next one beside it from the sides. The reason they do that is there are no exposed fasteners on the top deck of the bridge. They're all sandwiched between the lumber to prevent rot, so they last longer that way. Here's a view from far away. There's me standing on the finished bridge. So this is after it's gotten finished. If you look back at this process, what they do is they bolt it down in 3 different places. So they've got a crew of 3 men up here, 1 on each side and 1 in the middle, and they screw their fasteners in from the side. They screw those in, and this whole deck, this deck that he's walking on right here, once it gets fastened together, it's one solid piece, but they use these steel hooks. I don't have a picture of this, but they sandwich these steel hooks in between each of these pieces of lumber, and they hook underneath the lip of the I-beam. So it's not bolted to the I-beam, but it has a hook on it where it can't slide around too much, but it can slide back and forth along the bridge. So what can happen is when a really big truck gets on a bridge, any bridge, concrete bridge, asphalt bridge, whatever, it's almost like it creates a wave. And the bridge will, the truck's weight will push the front of the bridge and create a wave in front of it and create a wake behind it as it drives over. So this is designed to absorb that, so it can shift around a little bit. And by doing that, it doesn't put any shear strength on the fasteners or the bolts that are used to attach it to the I-beams. It's fascinating what they've come up with there. That's me standing on the new finished bridge. It has these curbs on it. So this curbing is just meant to, your tire hits that, and you know that, and it prevents you from driving off the edge of the bridge, basically.
Which is important for people.
Which is important. Now, this is the finished bridge as they build it. Now, you'll notice that it's not something you can drive up on, because this is about 2.5 feet from the deck of the bridge to the ground right here. So the job now for me is I've got to come back in with rock, gravel, and dirt and fill in this void and taper this over to the road. And I've got to do the same thing on the other side. So in other words, I've got to bring the grade of the road up to match that. The way that they when they set the footers in the ground, one of the things they took into consideration was how high the deck of the bridge would be. And you can't really see it too well here, but the deck of the bridge is just slightly higher by around 3 to 4 inches higher than the deck of the road, or the road bed right here, the asphalt road. So what that allows for is it allows for, once I have the grade filled in between the road and the bridge, that it's a very slight incline up. So the bridge sheds water off and the road can't shed water onto the bridge.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's
So,
And that's our bridge right there.
okay. So for people, for other homesteaders who are looking to build a bridge, just the body that we have here, it's not the finished bridge because you're going to do a lot on your own. How much are they looking to spend?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question, right? Because I'm sure it varies a lot by the size of the bridge and the technical difficulty of it. But I think that it's pretty standard, probably a 30-foot bridge like this. This is HS20 rated, which means basically it means that, you know, it can support around roughly 80,000 pounds. And it's, I don't know, highway standard rating or something like that. I don't remember what HS20 stands for. But this bridge cost us $65,000.
I mean,
Honestly, I don't know if that's high or low. You know,
it feels high to me. Let me just say that.
I'm a first-time bridge buyer, so I've not bought a bridge before, and I probably won't buy another one. I did shop around a little bit, but the thing was that there are very few private bridge builders. Most of the bridge builders are DOT bridge builders who will also build a private bridge. They build them very differently. A lot of the bridges that I looked at, they build them out of timber. Timber frame. This is not timber frame. This is steel. Obviously, these are 4 huge steel I-beams. This is.
Do you want to mention the name of the company that you used?
Yes, this is rated to last for approximately 80 years, and it's also designed to be maintenance-free during that time. You don't have to stain the deck. You don't have to come back and reseal it, any of that stuff. And so I like this company, and the name of the company is Bridges to the Other Side, and they're located in Hayesville, North Carolina. So it's in Western North Carolina, kind of south of the Nantahala River, and west of Franklin, North Carolina.
If you guys want that, I'm not going to put that in the description of so you should pause the video and then write that down, and then also go back and get that phone number, because I'm not going to put that stuff in the description. I thought this was really interesting, the way that we did this video, and I think that we could capture more when I'm not with you on the homestead stuff, if you would continue to get pictures like this, and then we can just capture the process this way, which I think is pretty interesting for people to hear you well describe the process, right? Because there's also many things that we've already missed that you've already done on building. You know, you're excavating up to the property, but we're still brand new building out this homestead. So let's just be mindful to capture pictures as we go, and then we can do more. You know, I think this was just kind of spontaneous, this video, but I think that people are going to really enjoy this. So any other final words on building bridges to people who are watching this who might be in the same situation?
Let me think about that. So final words. I think, you know, a bridge is a very necessary thing. If you need it, you know you need it probably. And I think one of the important things to think about with a bridge is that it's one thing to have vehicle access to a bridge, like for personal vehicles. We had that already on our property with another bridge. It's a beautiful arched steel bridge, but it wasn't engineered to take the kind of weight that we would need to for other things that are practical for having a homestead. Number one, I need to be able to get gravel trucks over the bridge and into the property. It's much more efficient to be able to dump gravel closer to where you need it than to haul it bucket by bucket with a little tractor. Number two, concrete. So it's much more efficient to be able to get concrete trucks closer to a build site. And still, you're probably going to have to pump it, but it's easier to do that than it is to pump it 600, 700 feet from the road into a home site. And lastly, I think the most important thing that a lot of people may not think about with a bridge is a bridge gives access to fire trucks. Fire trucks are very heavy, and fire trucks will not cross bridges that aren't rated for the weight that they need to handle to bring that fire truck across safely. Your house will burn to the ground rather than them risking the lives of their firemen and risking their equipment getting across a bridge that's not rated to carry the weight.
Word. What an important point.
Yeah.
Thank you for thinking of that. I didn't even think of that on our, that's like the most important point ever.
You know, if we have a fire, it's the most important thing ever. If it's not, if we never have a fire, then hey, we didn't need it, but that's okay because we need it for other things.
Yes.
And
Thank
as
you
we
so
say in kayaking, or as you say in motorcycling, in kayaking, you say dress for the swim, right? And in motorcycling, you say dress for the slide, not the ride, right? And this is sort of that. We're preparing for the worst case, which would be a fire or other emergency vehicles getting across, but hopefully we never need that.
We still, and in the short term, we still need, like you said, you know, equipment trucks to get the things that we need for the various buildings that
We absolutely need that. And one of the things that there is no workaround for, you know, gravel, yeah, you could dump it on one side of the road and carry it across bucket by bucket. I've done a little bit of that already. It's very inefficient, but you could do that. Concrete, yeah, maybe you could pump it 600 feet with a pumper if you needed to. I don't know. Well rigs, and we need a well drilling rig to drill our well. You can't do that from the other side of the bridge. Like you've actually got to come into the property with the well rig to do that. So
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking me through the bridge building, because I wasn't there this week. You were. I appreciate that.
Yes.
All right. Bye.